A lot of people, saw some stuff the night before. On top of that, there is a giant uranium mine close by as well. So
it's a uranium mine right there?
Yeah.
That's nice and convenient.
Yeah. So it seems,
All right, you were just telling me this off camera, Chris, but there's more to the Zimbabwe story than even I know. We were talking about the 1994 sighting and everything.
Yeah.
And you said they were happening like the night before?
There was, yeah. There's a lot of sightings the night before. Randall Nickerson did a great job on the, what is it called? The Ariel Phenomenon. Great movie. Check it out. I would highly recommend watching that. He was so close to everybody involved, with Emily Trim, who is, sadly passed away not too long ago. He was very close with her and close to everybody there. But yeah, he interviewed a pilot as well. I think you can check this out on their YouTube channel. I don't think it made the cut of the movie.
Oh, wow.
But the pilot talks about like them picking something up on the radar as well that kind of moves across the radar, and they're like, it's probably a glitch or whatever.
The night before these kids saw it.
Yeah. There was stuff going on in space the night before, but there was also space debris re-entering orbit. And I think that a lot of debunkers and a lot of people who were looking for something turn to that. But every other day we get something, re-entering orbit. So
yeah.
But yeah, that and the fact that, a lot of people, saw some stuff the night before. On top of that, there is a giant uranium mine close by as well. So
it's a uranium mine right there?
Yeah.
That's nice and convenient.
Yeah. So it seems,
what do the aliens want with uranium?
I don't know. Maybe they just want to know what we want with uranium.
That's what I think.
They're
just studying us where they're little squirrels or ants.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They're like, don't play with that. Don't play with it. What are you doing?
Yeah, that's the case. That was the one that very early on in me really thinking about this stuff made me go, whoa.
Yeah.
Because you have a lot of kids.
Kids, man.
Now, kids, listen, there's always some sort of explanation that could say the other side's true. But when you look at how they describe potentially encountering those ETs, out hopping on the logs just off where their school campus was there in Zimbabwe, and the consistency of all of them describing it, and then the patterns that they go through, like the telepathic nature of the communication specifically being about how, you humans have no idea what you're capable of, or, basically like themes of don't blow yourselves up, like as a human race, etc. The size of the beings, in the 3-foot area, the way they looked. This is all pre-internet era.
Yeah.
So it's not like people could be on like Reddit threads and like do copycat in that way.
Yep.
And when you look at all the different sightings around the world, across the continents, everywhere, the ones I'm thinking of are pretty much every continent except Antarctica that I'm aware of, although there's a lot of stories from Antarctica. It's like when you look at all those sightings from World War II on, the patterns of what they describe are very, very similar. And that's what gives me pause, because I'm like, okay, I know all these people didn't like come together in a group in a chat room somewhere in 1971 when, this is happening over a lot of different years, again, all pre-internet.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And Rua in Zimbabwe, there's a lot of really interesting things there to look at as well. So not only were there children witnesses, there were teachers that witnessed that stuff too. And people forget that. There were adults that just were afraid to come forward. But there were way more witnesses than were documented in the documentaries.
Yeah.
Just a lot of people didn't want to come forward.
Yeah.
And one thing that I like is you look at the drawings and they're not all exactly alike. Now, upon initial inspection, you might think that is, that leads, maybe they're lying. But actually, for me, it tells me that they're telling the truth, because when you remember something, if everybody remembers it exactly the way it happened, that's a script. Right? And this is like there's just enough deviation between the stories where you're like, no, there's clearly, the fundamental story here seems to be true. Yeah.
There was also, I think it's the principal of the school, someone high up in the school later came forward years later apologizing because she didn't believe them.
Yeah.
And once she had seen all the evidence that they presented, and obviously like the studies that had been done by Dr. John Mack from Harvard and all that, she was like, oh my God, like it seemed crazy, of course, but I should have listened. And that's nuts to me, because even if something like this did happen, wherever it happens in the world, we are trained to be like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely, man. And, it's one of the things where you start to go, why, right? Why children? Why this place? Now, if you look at that school, it was an international school.
Yes.
There's children from all around the world,
That's
all
right.
races and backgrounds and religions. And, as I was talking to a friend of mine, Luigi Venditelli, who is also really close with Emily Trim, he's currently working on the Bob Lazar movie. And he was telling me, like, if you were to sort of test humanity on, contact and how, what would happen if contact happened, that's how you would do it.
Yes.
People say, oh, I want it to land on the White House lawn. No one's going to believe it.
It's the biggest UFO ever.
Yeah, exactly. But no one's going to believe it.
No one's going to believe it.
It's going to feel like a setup. It'll feel like
Yep.
them. It'll feel like like some type of U.S. military thing, like a psyop. No one's going to buy it. So, for them to do it at a school where there's innocent children and like, this is like the perfect way to make contact when you think about it.
Yeah. I actually, I try to think as best I can, which is completely impossible, but from what we can as like a human brain, I try to think about what would I be thinking if I were like an advanced civilization, whatever it is, and I were coming here to study the people here. And I've always wondered about like the simulation theory, and I'm not talking about Rysverk's theory.
Sure.
I'm talking about them literally wanting to simulate what would happen if, blank, as an example. When you hear about like a UFO being sighted, whether it be like Lonnie Zamora out in the desert where he actually saw it and they allowed him to be seen or whatever, if a civilization were able to like bend wormholes or whatever, or bend the speed of time and to be able to get here, I got to think they figured out invisibility or, speeds that are so high that no one can ever be seen or be able to prevent anything like a crash in our universe. So that all being equal, it's like maybe then they're like, ooh, let's see what happens if we crash.
Yeah.
Show them one and just see how people will react to it, because most people won't believe it. But like, what will the civilization down there on Earth do when someone comes home and goes, yo, I just saw an alien in the desert?
Yeah, the donation theory too, it's really interesting. I've given a lot of thought on especially like the abduction side and a lot of the sightings, and what it seems to me, it's like the kind of working theory that I have right now is that we are dealing with some type of system. And the reason I say that, like, are you familiar with like, and I hate quoting 4chan as being a source here, but there has been like, this one guy that came out on 4chan who was like, oh, I worked at an underground thing that we were looking at this mobile construction unit in the ocean, this giant thing, and like in the Atlantic that we're tracking that deploys these UFOs, and they go right back to it. And now after that, he said at the end, which is something that stuck with me, notice yourself coming back to this thread. And I swear every time we get an update from whether it's Congress or we get some, they're in the ocean or the drone flaps or whatever it is, it always leads back to what that guy was saying. So my conviction level, started really low on that, and it's been growing ever since. And so I'd put that into this theory as, okay, if I were to, let's say I have the technology to bounce around the universe at will. Okay, we've established it. It's been billions of years. Our civilization has been around, and I can now blink anywhere I want in the universe. Let's say I have that technology. You would find 100 billion exoplanets that are capable of sustaining life.
Yeah.
Right, instantly. Now, because you're so advanced, you probably wouldn't even show up to these planets yourself. You would have some type of von Neumann-esque probe that lands in the oceans, that's buried, sequestered deep into, out of reach, that deploys a sort of immune system that the planet has, this sort of white blood cell, that if ever the scales are tipped too far in one direction, it would come out, shut down the nukes. It would come out during times of war. It would come out, and then go right back down. Now, these ships would require sometimes, especially for like the genetic stuff that they're probably doing as well, because if you're sort of creating this simulated panspermia, you would have to, not only feed it plant life, but also probably some type of, mammalian life form, or all sorts of life form from all around the universe. So what you would do is you would genetically modify this plant life you got from this planet, bring it over here. You would grab an animal from over here, and you do this to all the planets, right? So that life thrives everywhere, right? That's kind of, and so there's so many cases of these aliens. They show up and they're grabbing dirt samples, they're grabbing rock samples, or there's genetic modifications, and then they just leave. And so I'm thinking maybe this is also just part of the system where it's like this sort of eco zoo, this biome that they're trying to preserve and maintain.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.